Hello, this is Professor Ian Holmes from Cypress College. I'm here at home in my backyard in Long Beach, California, and today is March 20th, 2020. This is the first full day of Governor Newsom of California, the mayor of Long Beach, the mayor of Pasadena, and the mayor of Los Angeles have all called for a safer at home sort of self-quarantine, for lack of a better word. They're asking everybody to stay home that is not an essential worker. So essential workers would be medical staff, police, fire, grocery store workers, pharmacists, and even teachers of higher ed. So this has been an interesting few days. It's been about a week since we sort of went into pandemic coronavirus mode. We started teaching online this week. Some of us had taught online, one or two classes, maybe some even taught more online over the years, but this is the first time that all California schools, K through 12, special ed, and community colleges and four-year colleges, universities, everybody has been asked to stay home and teach from home. It was quite a bit to ramp up for this, and we're using a lot of different new technology. Some of us are using online conference systems, which work quite well, actually, and that's how we're communicating with our students and running our classes. I had this experience for the first time with my classes this last week using the software platform called Zoom Conference, where basically the whole class signs on to this Zoom platform, and I can see all the students and they can see me, and we can interact live, talk to each other, share screens, and have really a regular class session. And I have to say it went really well. I was really happy with it, and I think it's going to be a very good experience for the students and for myself. I hope all the other teachers throughout the state and throughout the country that are now moving to these online platforms will have as good of an experience as I did. I hope my students had a good experience too. I think they did, and it'll only get better as we get more savvy and get more used to working through the internet exclusively with no on-campus classes. So the world has changed. The first week before school shut down, we were sort of seeing the writing on the wall. We saw what was happening in China. We saw what was happening in South Korea. And unfortunately, we saw what was happening in Italy, which seems to have got hit the hardest, maybe even harder than China, where their hospitals and their medical facilities have become overwhelmed. As we started to see this, it was sort of like a slow motion disaster movie, if I can put it that way. All those movies that we've seen in the past, like Virus, Contagion, all those kind of horror movies that dealt with viruses and pandemics, we could start seeing that might be our reality. And then, of course, it did become our reality. And now we're all dealing with the future and how we're going to navigate the future. So I taught 2 classes yesterday online that went really well. And or actually, it was 1 class yesterday and 2 classes the day before, and they went really well. I spent most of the 4 days prior to that kind of testing out and preparing for the technology for that, and I think it was good. We held a meeting, a division meeting for our academic division, the fine arts division meeting at 4 p.m. where we got to see all the other faculty members and interact with them, and of course our dean, who did a great job. Our college has been doing a really good job communicating with us and helping us out with a lot of things. So that was all good, and then we got through that. It was kind of exhausting, the days leading up to that, and then getting through it successfully was great. today was interesting, okay? About 4 weeks ago, when I saw what was happening in China, I just kind of proactively thought, well, maybe it'd be a good idea to stock up on some food. So I went to the market and I stocked up on some food, thinking, well, maybe we might need food for a couple of weeks. And I bought things that I'd normally buy, and canned goods, canned meats like tuna and chicken and different things like that, and got all those ready, and bought a big pack of 30 rolls of toilet paper, something I'd never do, but seemed like a wise thing at the time. And there was no panic, there was no panic buying, there was no hoarding or anything like that at the time. Well, fast forward to about a week ago, and when people started to really see how serious things were, there was a lot of panic buying here in the United States, and especially here in California and Southern California. And it got to the point where we basically had toilet paper Armageddon, where people ran out and they bought all the toilet paper they could find. They bought all of a variety of different kinds of goods like hand sanitizer and antibacterial soap, antibacterial wipes, all these kind of products, and then there was none. And people were freaking out. I saw on the news people getting in arguments and fighting over toilet paper, and now people line up before the stores open. This morning I got up and watched the news, and there was people lined up at 4 in the morning in front of Costco. Some places even 1 in the morning for stores that don't open till 7 or 8. It's crazy. And again, people going in and buying as much as they can. Thankfully, though, the supermarkets and the big box retailers like Target and Costco and Walmart are now limiting the amount of products people can buy, so they can't just hoard them all. There has been stories in the news of people that saw this coming, kind of like I did, but they went crazy and they thought they would profiteer from it, and they went out and bought thousands and thousands of dollars worth of hand sanitizer or toilet paper. There's a story of this one fellow who bought $17,000 worth of antibacterial products, mostly hand sanitizer, and then wanted to sell them at extremely high prices on Amazon and eBay. Thankfully, Amazon and eBay stepped in and they stopped that. They deactivated, or they took his products off, and they threatened to deactivate his account if he tried to sell them again. So now this guy has $17,000 worth of product all sitting in his garage that he can't sell and that people need. It's silly. It's terrible. People need to keep their heads together. Thankfully, most people are. So today, after drinking my coffee, taking my shower, watching the news, I decided, well, I've got some stuff up in my travel trailer. I'll go up there, and I went up there, and thankfully I had paper products, I had toilet paper, I had cleaning products, I had rubber gloves, things like that. So I brought those all back, and then I decided to stop at a Food 4 Less on the way home. And I saw lots of people with masks on, lots of people with rubber gloves. I had rubber gloves with me. I had a mask with me. So I put those rubber gloves and mask on, and I went into Food 4 Less, and lots of people had them on, and it wasn't too bad. There wasn't a lot of product in some areas. There was plenty of meats, all the meats you could want. Hamburger, steak, chicken, fish, all that good stuff. And not as much canned meats, but there was some. Lots of fresh meats. I didn't see any eggs, saw plenty of milk. There was no paper products whatsoever. No paper napkins, no toilet paper, all that kind of stuff. Still in very short supply. But generally everybody was, very well behaved. I saw, teenagers and young 20-somethings, young men and ladies, young ladies helping their grandmothers and parents shop. It was really nice. And I gathered up the stuff that I needed, which wasn't a lot, but some things that we were running a little low on, and then I got in the big line. There was nothing but big lines at all the checkouts. It took maybe 20 minutes to get through. It wasn't terrible. But I do have to say, wearing a mask, especially an N95 mask, is not an easy thing. It's claustrophobic. You don't breathe normally. You feel hot. It's uncomfortable. You have to have a lot of respect for all of these medical workers and emergency workers that are working in hospitals or are working at these COVID-19 testing stations throughout the state, wearing full medical gear and wearing masks and eye protection all day long, testing people. It's got to be brutally difficult to get through the day like that. I barely made it, for the maybe 40 minutes that it took me to shop and then to get through the checkout line. I was like exhausted from that experience. And there's a lot of stress with it too. Everybody's a little stressed out. People are being polite, but it's not the same as it normally is. But generally speaking, everything's going really well here. My girls have been home now for, seems like 2 weeks, because my youngest one, my 17-year-old, she was sick with a cold. And then my 20-year-old got the cold, and then both of their schools were canceled like everybody else's. And so that was a little tough on them, being sick. And then, unfortunately for my 17-year-old, she's a senior in high school. And then when everything started shutting down in school, she learned that, basically, possibly the rest of her senior year is canceled. Her school play that she was working on for weeks and weeks and weeks in rehearsals was canceled just the night before the first opening. Same thing happened at our college too. Her prom is likely canceled, and we don't know about graduation. We're hoping that maybe by the time this subsides, the pandemic subsides, maybe that'll be early enough in June that the kids can still have their high school graduation, maybe the prom. I don't know, but it must be really rough to be a senior in high school, looking forward your whole 12 years to that senior year, that final semester, and then having everything get put off or canceled. So I feel real bad for those kids. Anybody that has to graduate, whether you're graduating from high school or college or middle school, the possibility of having your graduation canceled must be pretty tough. So my heart goes out to all those folks. In perspective, I'm doing pretty good here. I really enjoy seeing my students online. That was a really big pick-me-up this week, to be able to see all my students online and be able to talk with them and interact with them. I really look forward to doing that again next week. But because we have to now change our mode of operation, our mode of instruction, it means that, basically I have to kind of rewrite my whole syllabus for all my classes and redesign my lessons and do something different in a lot of the classes, most of them. So that's a little stressful. It's a little hard, but nothing compared to what a lot of people are going through. Currently, as of today, March 20th, 2020, there's over 209,000 cases of coronavirus in the world. There's been 8,778 deaths. In the United States, there's 7,087 cases and 100 deaths. I think it may be even higher. I think I read that it might be as high as 11,000, but that's what I'm seeing there. Here in Long Beach, where I live, there's currently only 14 cases. California has over 1,000 cases. According to this, as of 2 p.m., I'm looking at the Long Beach City website, there's 15,219 cases in the United States. And we're still sort of at the beginning of this curve of infection and sickness. They expect that it's going to get worse over the next 2 weeks. The reason they've asked us all to shelter in place or to stay safer at home and to not go to work is because they're trying to do what's called flattening the curve. The health officials are trying to guide us to not be exposed, to keep us from being exposed, or if we're exposed and we already have the coronavirus, to keep us from spreading it. So that's why they're asking us all to stay home. I think it's fantastic. It's wise. I'm glad we're able to do that. I'm really happy. My wife came home from work today, and she told me that her boss gave them all next week off, and they're all getting paid. So the whole staff, production staff, all the salespeople, everybody in her office has next week off with full pay. That is a great employer. That is really kind. So we're happy about that, because we all kind of need some time together, just to kind of, bond and support each other. So overall, I think we're doing pretty good, and it's definitely an adjustment though. It's quiet. We do hear some traffic noise out and about. You might even hear that on the microphone here, because I live in Long Beach, pretty close to Pacific Coast Highway, which is a major thoroughfare through all of California, and goes not too far from my house, less than a mile away. So you might hear some of that traffic noise, but still it's relatively quiet, and you don't see people out playing. You don't see kids out playing. I drove down our main street, which is called 2nd Street, in the Belmont Shore area of Long Beach, to go to the bank and to get some fuel 2 nights ago, and it's just a ghost town. All the businesses are shuttered. They're all closed. A lot of them closed voluntarily, but then as of yesterday, it's mandatory that all businesses have to be closed unless you're an essential business. So hardware stores are allowed to be open because people need things to get fixed. They need to fix things if pipes break or something like that. Banks can be open, supermarkets can be open, and of course anything having to do with hospitals or medical professionals or first responders, they're all open as well. But in terms of all the restaurants, all the businesses, all the shops, all the stores, all the hairdressers, all that stuff is closed, and for good reason. But it is kind of eerie when you drive down the business streets and you see everything shuttered, everything closed. It's different. I've never experienced anything like this in my life before. Hopefully I won't experience anything like this in my life in the future, and I hope nobody else has to either. But things are starting to shut down a lot. They haven't been enforcing this with law enforcement because they're just hoping that everybody in business and in individuals will comply and do the right thing. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're only on the first day, the end of the first day here of sort of like a self-quarantine on, kind of Scout's honor, right? So anyway, it's not too bad yet. It's the first day, and we hope that, things continue to go as smoothly as they are going now. So for anybody that's watching this, I just want you to know that things are good here. I hope they're good where you are. Stay calm. If you get a fever, you get a sore throat, those are the first signs that you could have an infection with coronavirus, COVID-19, as it's also called. But it could be you have a cold, and it could be you have the flu, so you have to watch it carefully. They are starting to get testing out. You need to check first by calling your doctor, and then your doctor would determine if you need to go get tested and recommend for a test or not. So, I think everybody's watching the news and you know the same things I know. But generally speaking, I feel in pretty good spirits, especially when I can get outside, even just in the backyard here or in the front yard. Being indoors is a little tough, especially if you've got to watch the news, I'm trying not to watch the news because it gets a little bit sad and depressing, but I'm making the best of it. Every night I watch a couple of hours of YouTube videos, SNL video clips from their show, comedians that are on YouTube or on HBO or on Netflix. The one silver lining to all this is that this is happening in the 21st century, where most of us have broadband, and we have inexpensive streaming services like Netflix and Prime Video and so many others. So we have plenty of video entertainment, that's for sure. I can only imagine how horrible this would be if this was the 1950s, the 1960s, or some other century. So for that, we have to be thankful. We have to be thankful that we are having to endure this pandemic during a time where we have a lot of good resources for both health, entertainment, and supplies of all types. That's about it for today, folks. So I'm going to try and do updates on this, if not every day, every few days, and just let you know how it's going here in the city of Long Beach, in Southern California, in the United States. I wish you all well. and I wish you good health. Good night.